Hi guys, welcome to my channel, Jason's Weird Reads. I'm Jason White, and if you're new here, feel free to hit the subscribe button, especially if you like horror fiction, science fiction, and dark fantasy. And comment down below, and we will discuss some books. And if you're not new here, thank you for returning. I truly appreciate it. Alright, so Mary McWilliams started this, created this tag about a month and a half ago, and I thought that I would do it, but you know how time is sometimes, how it doesn't even exist in other times. But yeah, so I've been meaning to do it, and so I'm doing it now, and so let's get into it. Now, I'll put Mary McWilliams as her original down there in the comments and probably up there, and so you can go check it out for yourself if you haven't seen it. It's been pretty popular. Nobody's tagged me. I just decided, at least not that I'm aware of, I just thought that I would go ahead and do it anyway because that's how I roll. Alright, so first question. What was the first horror movie you remember seeing? Now for me, this is an interesting story actually because I've been watching these videos and I noticed a trend where people tend to be, when they were kids, they were afraid of horror movies, and I was very much the same. I was afraid of everything when I was a kid. I remember The Incredible Hulk, that old TV show. It would come on, and I was fine with it until the guy started turning green and his muscles started growing, and then I was gone out of the room. And my mom would also watch these operation shows, not drama shows. They were actual like operation shows, and I hated those shows. I couldn't watch them. And so one day I decided I wanted to conquer this fear, and so I asked her to rent me a horror movie, and we decided upon Friday the 13th Part 4, the final chapter. And I watched that movie, and it didn't scare me at all. It was like a complete 180 from the way I was, and I've never looked back. And there had been a few instances. I was telling somebody else, I forget who now, about an instance where I was about 6 years old, and we went to go visit a family, a friend of the family, we went to go visit a friend of the family, and they were looking through the TV guide where they saw that Alien was on, and I don't know why they decided to put that movie on for me. I guess I'm thinking that they didn't know what Alien was. They thought it might be appropriate for kids because it's got an alien in it. And they put it on, and it was right close to the scene where, if you've seen the movie, you know what scene I'm talking about. Where is it? Oh, I can't remember the android's name. But the android is attacking Sigourney Weaver, or Ripley, and he's got like the rolled up newspaper or magazine that he's stuffing in her mouth, and then one of the guys comes in and knocks its head off with a fire extinguisher, and it's like doing the funky chicken with its head hanging off by a thread, and I was mortified. Oh my god, that was awful. They turned it off right after that, but I was not in any good shape. And when I saw the Friday the 13th movie, it was probably when I was around 9 or 10. So it was really cool that my mom would rent that for me, to help me overcome that fear, and it worked because I became kind of obsessed, I guess, a little later on after watching that film. Question number 2. What was the first horror book that you remember reading? And I want to go with Swan Song by Robert R. McCammon because that's the first horror author I read, but that's not really a horror book. So I'm pretty sure that right after reading that, I went to find more Robert R. McCammon books, and so I read Stinger. I would say that Stinger is probably the first horror book I read, and I loved it. Question number 3 is, what is the movie that made you a horror fan? I'm going to go again with the first answer, and that's Friday the 13th Part 4, the supposed final chapter. I mean, that's a dark movie, and it's also a lot of fun, so... and, it was the first one that didn't scare the bejesus out of me, where I actually just had fun watching it, so definitely that movie, yeah. What is the book that made you a horror fan? And I don't, honestly, I don't know the answer to this. But I'm going to go with maybe Stinger by Robert R. McCammon or Swan Song, because once I read those books, there was like no looking back. I started to consume all of Robert R. McCammon's books at the time, and I always looked forward to more. And I was really upset when he quit there for a while. He quit from like 1991 or something till 1999 or 2000. I forget what the years were, but that was heartbreaking to me. Question number question number 5. What is your favorite horror movie of all time? For the longest time, I wouldn't have been able to answer that question honestly, because there's so many. But I'm gonna go with John Carpenter's The Thing, because that's the one that I've probably watched the most. It's totally dark and disturbing. It's brilliant. It's almost a perfect movie. That's what I always say about it, because it is almost a perfect movie. There's like maybe one or two things about that movie that they could have done a bit better, but not much, man. And there's not too many movies that you can say that about. What is your favorite horror book? Now this one is a little bit more tough. I mean, there's a lot of horror books that I absolutely love. Um, God, I don't know. I'm gonna go with maybe Pet Cemetery by Stephen King. If not that, then Salem's Lot. Those are really awesome books, and they've stayed with me for many years. This is question number 7. What is your favorite trope? Horror trope. That's a tough one to answer too. I honestly, I've always enjoyed the final girl thing, because I like it when the media portrays women as stronger than what they are. And during the 80s, the whole final girl thing wasn't quite. It was kind of feminist in its own way, but it was 80s style feminism, and so there's still a little bit of sexism going on with that. But the fact that it became a thing that a woman of purity even would survive was interesting. Not only that she was pure, I mean, that I think is where a lot of I have issues with that, but the fact that she was generally stronger than she thought, and she would kick a lot of bad guy ass. And I absolutely love that about those films. Alright, question number 8, and it's the final question. Why do you love horror? Um, Honestly, I think that I love horror so much, I actually can't say why exactly. I think part of the reason is because I just like the imagery. I like being safely scared, and I like the atmosphere that a lot of horror brings about. But for the most part, horror was like climbing a mountain for me when I was a kid, and it continues to be so, because horror fiction sort of forces you to look at your own fears, and to maybe conquer them in a safe environment. And horror really helped me out with that. So I would say those reasons are probably the reasons why I love horror so much. It's interesting that a lot of people don't like horror, and when you tell them that you love horror, they kind of give you this weird look. And I remember once I was at work, and I was explaining to a guy how Halloween is almost like my Christmas, and he was like, "You're a freak," and he was serious, and that kind of hurt. But that's just the way normies look at people like you and me, people who like horror. So that is all the questions. I'm not going to tag anyone, but if you haven't done this tag yet, and it looks cool to you and you want to do it, by all means, do it, because nobody tagged me. Alright, so thank you guys for watching. Keep being creative, keep being safe, and I will catch you guys in the next bookish video.